Next, we're going to talk about the flights APIs, right? Flights APIs operations, and this is where we're going to also talk about the flights API authentication, right? Okay. Back to Postman, back to our terminal. We need both of these, right? Postman and terminal. We need both. And again, I don't need my temporary folder. What I'm interested in is the logs. This is what I'm interested in. Okay. Okay, so what are we going to do? Well, I'm going to put a few of empty lines like this to split. Actually, I'm going to clean up the screen so that I can only see the new stuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same exact thing like before. Right, so I'm going to copy just the base URL. It's the same exact base URL. Copy, open a new tab. This time I'm going to maintain the get method because I'm going to show you how you can get the flights. So paste, and the method is flights. I'm sorry, the resource is flight. So get flight is the next API operation we're interested in. Okay, get flights. And we're going to send. And of course, you're going to be getting that 401 unauthorized. Why are you getting this 401 unauthorized? Because we did not provide an authentication, right? And we do need to provide an authentication. And it's at this point in time where this token that is provisioned by post token is being used, right? So let's copy this token that we just provisioned a few minutes ago. Copy, or in the previous section, that is. Let's get back. We're going to go to the auth, and this time we're going to select bearer token. Bearer token. As you can see, I already have one in here. I want you to replace it. Control A, Control V to select and replace everything. Right, and here it is. Here's the new token that we're providing. Okay, and now we're going to send the request. Now that we have the authentication, we should be able to retrieve 3 records. Right, here they are, 3 records. And of course, you see the same thing in the logs, right? Here's the get flight. Here's the authorization with a bearer token. There were no query parameters provided. And the name is John Doe no name. That's the user that actually tries to access. And of course, everything was hanky-dory in this case, and we get the 200. Okay. Here's the thing. I'm pretending I'm a developer, right? Actually, I'm the one who developed this flights API, so this flights application, and I'm pretending also I'm a naive developer. I do not know how JSON Web Tokens work. Okay, that's my other assumption here. So, in order to be able to log in, the only thing you need to have is in the payload. You pretty much have a suffix, or anywhere in the payload name, you have a field called name, and in it you have the substring no name. If that's the case, well, everybody gets authenticated. So I'm not following best practices when it comes to JSON Web Token, which means number one, the username should not be in here. The role is not necessary, because if the role is already internally, and the token should capture that. So these are information you shouldn't be communicating, right? But hey, we are communicating them. Maybe an identifier of some sort, such as sub, will be more than enough. The other thing is that I'm not validating signatures. So my code, when I validate those tokens, do not validate signatures. And those signatures must be validated if you want to have your JSON to be accepted as such, which will also cause active testing to scream at us. Right? It's not going to scream at us. It's just going to trigger more security issues. Right? So, very naive implementation of a JSON Web Token, but nonetheless, it is what it is. This is what we have. This is what we have to work with, and active testing is going to let me know, myself, the naive developer, that hey, you've done the wrong thing, buddy. Fix it. Okay. All right. Okay. So that's one operation. Right. That's one operation. So I need this and I need that. What are the other operations? Well, the other operation is that you can retrieve individual records. So look, I have this flights, and I can say, okay, give me the one with identifier, I don't know, 3. Right? And I'm going to click send. Like this. And if I do something like that, right now I get the flight, a single flight, with this unique identifier. If I use an identifier that is out of bounds, like, I don't know, 99, Doesn't exist, in other words. I'm getting 404. It's not found. Okay? No record found. Doesn't exist. So this is the restful type of response that you expect. Okay? All right. Let's go back. Let's put 1. Let's get the first one this time. And what I want to do is I would like to duplicate now this tab. We can duplicate this tab. So we can go and say, right-click the tab, duplicate tab, and this time I'm going to do a post. And I'm going to remove that /1. Because there is another operation that creates flights. Right? There's another operation that creates flights. And of course, I have the same authentication like before. Right? So the only thing I need to do is provide a request body. So I'm going to go to the body, raw, JSON. And I don't want to type the whole thing like I've done before. There's a lot, I don't know, about a dozen fields or so. I'm just going to copy and paste. Copy. And let's go to the other side and paste. Like this. And I'm going to remove the ID. The ID is not needed because I'm supposed to be creating new records. And just to be, you're not going to get errors, right? But I'm going to change this to 99. Switch American to Delta. Let's go with Spirit. Right. And the destination, instead of Charlotte, let's say it's Athens. Right. And the origin, let's say it's Atlanta, ADL. Okay. And the price, of course, yeah, 999. Sounds right. Spirit after all. Right. Okay. Fair enough. That's it. So let's click send. And we should have a brand new record now created. Now, I want to point out that there is no indication of what is the ID of the new record. I can see it in my logs, right? I can see it in my logs. It's the new ID, a new flight created with ID 4. But there's no indication because there is a bad design. This API is badly designed. Generally speaking, the IDs are returned back of new records, of new data that are created. They are returned back in some form in the response. In this case, there's nowhere. They're not in the response body. They're not in the headers. They're nowhere. Right? They're nowhere. The other thing, I want to point out now that it's readily available to me, it's this server information. This is bad practice. It's not a good practice. Active testing is going to let us know too. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Why? Because it provides implementation details to the world. Whoever has access to this API is going to be given the implementation details. Right? So you don't want to have that type of information exposed. Anyhow, the only way you can see that you have a new record is if you go back to the get and you fetch everything. Right? If you fetch everything, voila. Now you have an extra record. This is the one we just created with the Spirit Athens to Atlanta. Right? Boeing 787. That pretty much covers the Flights API. And again, you have access. If I go back to my editor, you do have access under your student files, under 01 initial, you have a flights open API specification.yaml that contains pretty much these details. Here's the get flights. Here's the post flights. And finally, you have the flights by flight ID get. And it retrieves the corresponding individual flights. And lastly, before we conclude this walkthrough, I want to point out that the get flights by flight ID, for example, this last 4, is the consumer API for the data that post flights generates. There is a dependency. They have a producer, post flights, producer, get flights by flight ID is the consumer relationship. And I would like to have active testing be aware of this relationship and take advantage of this relationship when it performs their own tests. And we're going to do that in the next exercise. Not yet. For the time being, my good people, this section and this walkthrough is done. First walkthrough is done.